Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Lorcana video. Zero here, and today I have for you the resulting top 8 decks in the Lorcana HQ Discord September Constructed Tournament. Unfortunately, this time around I wasn't able to place. I got close, but ultimately ended up dropping the ball, so instead I will just be going over the decks that did make it a little, so yeah, let's get to it. First deck on the list, we start with the tried and true classic Ruby Amethyst Control. A list totaling up to 70 cards, a little heavier than some iterations I've seen, but I have seen 70 before, so nothing out of the ordinary. It includes the full aggro mitigation suite of 4 1-drops and 4 befuddles. There's also a full set of 4 Gastons and 4 Rafikis. Notable tech is the 2 Lefous, which I don't see too often. Other interesting notes are the only 2 Mauis being run. I wonder what led to that decision. I'm a strong proponent of at least 3, maybe 4, usually 4 actually, so yeah, I'm wondering what led to that. The meta is steering to be less challenging oriented, so perhaps that's why. Especially since there are plenty of other tools in here already to stop aggro earlier, maybe that is enough in his eyes. Full set of 4 Maleficent and 4 Friends on the other side of course, then 3 Street Rat Aladdin and 2 Mickey Sorcerers. I'm starting to see a lot more of Mickey Sorcerer being included. In the control matchup, especially late game, we see them being paired with the brooms and multiple pocket watches, so they can continuously run brooms into a unit to clear the board, but also kind of bring back key cards back from the discard into the deck repeatedly. So yeah, definitely a tech that is gaining traction in this deck. We don't see any goofy daredevils, which I have also been seeing gain popularity. 2 BLTs still, and a full set of Aladdins, Elsas, and Maleficent Monstrous Dragons. So pretty par for the course. For items, we do have just 1 Shield of Virtue, a whopping 4 mirrors, 2 cauldrons, and 3 pocket watches. I know this particular player really likes mirrors, so not surprised at the full set. Overall, a solid looking list. Since I took part in the tournament though, I do know that this deck didn't see as much play as the others. I think it got a bye first round and 1 or 2 forfeits along the way, so I'm wondering if it will stack up to the other decks in the top 8. It looks like it has sufficient tech for aggro, I see in the rest of the list, and still retains its identity as a hyper control deck, so yeah, it will also be strong late, so yeah, we'll continue to monitor this deck, see how it does with great interest. Moving along though to the next deck, we have Sapphire Steel Ramp. One of these decks made it. I'm actually really happy to see it here. Looking at it though, it looks to be an interesting iteration. I will admit I am not one of the most well-versed people in terms of this deck. I haven't played it at all and I've rarely encountered it, but yeah, I will try my best to understand and relay the information regarding it. Interestingly enough, we only see Tala and Fishbone Quill for the ramp elements of this deck. No Mickey Detectives or 1 Jump Ahead. I thought I would at least see Mickey. In my experience, it is the best card to ramp with, so very interesting idea to leave that out. I'm assuming they're not included because of the blind inking element, and he doesn't want to see key cards going under that he doesn't even know is going under. So that's the only reason I can kind of see of both Mickey and 1 Jump Ahead not being a part of this. We do have the classic 4 Bells, so this deck is aiming to hit 10 ink or higher to trigger her ability. Not only that, this is actually the item variant, so there are 4 Maurice and 4 Tamatoa. Very cool to see. Any deck with Tamatoa just instantly gets my attention. It's just very interesting already. There are 4 Dreaming Guardians being run as well. Makes a lot of sense to protect all these cards we just mentioned, the Bells, the Tamatoas, the Maurices. All very prone to removal, so good to have the ward protection for sure. For the item package, we have 4 Scepters for Arendelle, 2 Beast Mirror, the Fishbone Quills we mentioned, and a very interesting set of 4 Plasma Blasters. I really want to see this deck in action. I'm really curious to see if the Plasma Blasters are seeing much play or if they're just like getting inked for the Fishbone Quill, which is what I would think, just like looking at it right now. I can see this deck really getting up there in ink though, so maybe Plasma Blasters are really like getting some use out of it. You know, the ink cost really doesn't matter maybe. But yeah, anyway, for the rest of the deck, we have 4 Beasts. Item Crushing is still a trait unique to Steel, so taking advantage of that utility makes sense. 4 Robin Hoods, love this card, absolutely feeling it. For removal, we have 4 Hades, 3 Smash, 4 Let It Go, and 4 Grab Your Sword. Pretty good set of removal. I can see it almost rivaling Ruby, I think. Also, it's not afraid to run 4 copies of Whole New World. With Fishbone Quill, these Grab Your Swords, the Plasma Blasters, all those things you might worry about being dead in your hand can see use as ink. So yeah, you know, the more I talk about it, the more I like it. I definitely want to see it in action just to see how it actually runs, but so far so good. It does look good to me. Yeah, top marks. Next we have another Ruby Amethyst deck. Not one we see very often though. We see what looks to be a more like evasive aggro heavily teched into this deck. Just a straight 60 card deck. We see 3 1-drop Mals, 4 Pascals, and 3 Yzmas. Not only that, we have the full Ruby evasive package, 4 Pongos, 4 Goofies, 3 Tiggers, and we end in 3 of the big BLT drops. This deck still also has the big drops, so Spirit of Winter Elsa, Monstrous Dragons, along with 2 Ursulas. Notably no Aladdins though, so I'm guessing because it runs more of an aggro early package, we don't have to worry so much about trying to wrestle some lore back later, which I think is more Aladdin style. I'm assuming that's kind of how the deck plays, so it wants to lore aggressively in the beginning, and it functions kind of the same way where it's using the evasives to gain lore very aggressively, and eventually when they get removed, if they do get removed, then you come with the big drops that Ruby Amethyst is known for. The 3 lore gainers like Ursula and Elsa, the 4 lore gainer and Mickey. Very cool twist to the deck. I keep saying I want to see this deck in action, but it's true. Yeah, this one too. Let's see it. Next up, we have Amber Sapphire Princess Aggro. I will spoil things a bit and say a stunning 3 iterations of this color combination of decks made it into the top 8, which definitely surprised me. I don't know if I just don't have a finger on the meta and I just didn't see this coming. I did not think they would be that prevalent in this tournament. I did play against one of them, not this one, but the idea is more or less the same, I believe. But yeah, I lost, so the power in this deck is definitely there. Back to this list though, it starts like most aggro lists. We have 4 Lilo, 4 Stitch New Dog, 4 Simba, and at the top end we do have 4 Rockstar Stitches. Classic Amber aggro, not much to say there. To round it out, we do have 2 Flounders. I know a lot of decks recently like to have the 10 1-drops, so that makes sense, it's just rounding it out. And for the rest of the low end of the Princess package here, we have 2 Minis, 4 Baby Auroras, and 4 Baby Jasmines. The Mini, I assume, is to round out the 2 drops and to supplement both Rockstar Stitch and the Princesses. Baby Aurora and Jasmines are actually pretty crazy at racking lore up very quickly. They drop really early, and both of them have 2 lore pips, so it's a good start for the race this kind of deck eventually wants to start running. 4 Rapunzel, of course, good card draw, especially if you get a decent trade somewhere before this, or maybe if you dropped one of your 2 Bodyguard Maximuses and they survived a hit. Then we have 5 drops galore. We have 4 Moana, 4 Dreaming Guardian, 2 Queen Jasmines, and 4 Maleficents. Totally justifies playing the 2 Just-in-Times in this deck with so many viable targets, I think. But yeah, even with removal, really hard to keep up with the constant swinging for lore, especially when the bigger princesses that have much more health start to drop. This deck runs 2 of the You Have Forgotten Me's, super annoying card, especially when you have eventually forget about his existence. But yeah, to round it out, 4 Let It Goes and 2 Eye of Fates. The Eyes will also prove instrumental to winning, I think. Yeah, cool deck idea all around. I want to see it being played, so yeah, I will be keeping my eye out to see if these get streamed in the future. Next, we have Steelsong. This is the only Steelsong deck to make it in the top 8, even though a majority of participants played it this time around. It looks like a pretty standard mid-range build. 4 Duelist Hook, 4 Prince Eric. Steel has to be the king of mid-range with these 2 cards, by the way, underrated. 4 Aerial, 4 Tiny Tacticians, pretty par for the course. This version runs a total of 14 songs as targets, so we have 4 Be Our Guests, 2 Part of Your World, 4 Hakuna Matatas, probably just for the ink, and 4 Grab Your Swords. They run 4 Rapunzels, of course, always 4 Rapunzels, and 3 Hans. I wonder why they didn't run the full 4. Probably cut for space. I personally would rather cut one of the smashes, but that's just me. This variant does run 2 Moanas. I sometimes see these, but not all the time. There's a full set of 4 Beasts, 4 Giant Tinks, and 4 Surfer Stitches. And the interesting tech here is the 2 Simbas. Don't think I've seen him in this build personally. Would like to know why he was added and how it performed. I'm guessing is specifically maybe for BLT. It is a good evasive tech, so yeah, very interested to see how it did. But yeah, we round out with 4 Smash and 3 You Have Forgotten Me's. Solid build. Must be the most solid since it's the only Steelsong to make it out. So yeah, cool. On to the next deck. Here we have yet another Amber Sapphire Princess build. This is the one that took me out and knocked me out of top 8, so it still gives me nightmares. Yeah, but a bit of a different build than the first one. Less focus on the princess and aggro, and more on just getting to the mid-range part and trading effectively as well, possibly. We see none of the aggro components besides the Simba, and only 4 Flounders as 1-drops. So yeah, only 4 Flounders. We don't see Lilos, we don't see Rockstar Stitches. There is the addition of 4 Amber Mickeys and 4 Cinderellas, presumably mainly for the 2 Lore Pips, but also the healing from Cinderella if needed. There are a few more combat tricks in this version. It runs 4 of the Fills, and 3 copies of the Scepter of Arendelle. I'm just guessing it's trying to get good trades in, and after that, the Rapunzel can heal them up. This version also runs 4 Develop Your Brains, and the full suite of You've Forgotten Me. But yeah, even without the early aggro cards, still a very aggressive deck, I feel. Don't let it fool you. I wonder how this will stack up to the other variants. I don't quite remember what the matchups are. I personally hope we see some of these mirror matchups. Really curious on how these kind of decks measure up against each other since they're so wildly different. Next, another Ruby Amethyst build. This one is only running 60 cards as well. Very surprisingly, I'm not seeing any aggro tech here. So no 1-drops, no befuddles, just living on a dream. It did perform very well. It was undefeated going into the last game. So it lost the last game to the deck that is coming up after this. So yeah, something must have worked for this. Either it can either stack up to aggro pretty well, regardless of not having the aggro tech, or it just avoided it all the way up to this. We will have to see. Anyway, besides that oddity, we have 3 Brooms, 2 Mickeys, somewhat standard nowadays, it looks like. It runs 4 Gastons, 4 Elsas, 4 3-drop Mal, and 4 Friends on the other side. I don't know if I have to keep mentioning the Mals and Friends on the other side. I feel like they're always going to be running these. On top of that, we have 3 Rafikis, 2 Queens, 4 Mauis, nothing out of the ordinary there. 2 Ursulas, 4 Aladdin, 4 Elsa, 4 Monstrous Dragons. So yeah, very standard besides the lack of the aggro mitigation. It runs 3 Dragonfire, 4 Be Prepared, then all the standard items at varying quantities. So pretty par for the course besides the lack of aggro mitigation. I would love to know the reasoning behind that, if you thought aggro wasn't going to be prevalent, or if you thought the deck could handle it without it. Maybe Gaston and the Baby Elsas are enough to do the heavy lifting in that regard. Not sure, but one of the top performers, so not counting it out until I see it. The top 8 bracket is still ongoing, so yeah, we will just have to see how it stacks up in the long run. And last, but definitely not least, we have the only undefeated deck going to top 8. Yet again, it's Amber Sapphire. I don't know what memo I missed to not know that this was going to be a prevalent color. Some of you in the comments might just be chewing me out right now, saying how could I have missed this, but you know, I guess I'm a busy guy. Anyway, another different take on the colors, which I like to see. For this one, we don't see Lilos, but we do see the 4 Stitch New Dogs and 4 Simbas. It still runs the 4 Rockstar Stitches, and actually it also runs the 4 Fills to run out the 2-drops. Not that many triggers for Rockstar Stitch, so perhaps just hitting the triggers we have is enough, and the focus of the Rockstar was more the 3 Lore Pips if you can shift into him. The difference in this variant as well is we just see more mid-rangey elements instead of the aggro that we've been seeing earlier. We have 4 aerials and a suite of 9 supporting songs, so we have 3 Be Our Guest, 2 Part of Your World, 4 Let It Goes. Again, not as many targets as other decks, so less consistently are you going to be hitting these, but perhaps that doesn't matter. We also have the Mickey Mouse Detective, so there's some ramp in here, and the upper end of this deck is, it looks like 7 drops, so we have 4 Surfer Stitch and 4 Hades. And in comparison to the other deck, this all looks to be in place of the Princess package. So in this one, we aren't seeing Moanas, we aren't seeing the Auroras, we aren't seeing the Jasmines, any of that stuff. We do, of course, still see the Rapunzels, the 4 Rapunzels, always the 4 Rapunzels. And the 4 5-drop Mals are still here. So yeah, dude, 5-drop Mal, dude, I will swear by this card. It is amazing. And I can kind of see why this deck is getting strong with this as one of the focuses. But yeah, just looking at this list, I feel like I like the other Amber Sapphire variants better, but hey, this is just from a quick look, and I must be missing something, as this is the only undefeated deck going in so far. Like I have been saying this whole video, I want to see it in action. I would love to see it in action, especially against the other versions of this deck, these colors at least. And you know what, I just want to see high level gameplay, man. Can a guy live? Like that's all I want. Anyway, that does run out the top 8 decks. The bracket will be underway soon, so the winners are not yet determined. We don't know which of these decks is the best of this tournament yet, but I will definitely be keeping a close eye and trying to get my finger on the pulse of the meta. We've seen some super cool decks cropping up here in these tournaments, as well as the other recent events so far. I know there have been some 1Ks recently. I think it was Atlanta, and I don't remember where the other one was, but No, yeah, really cool to see the evolution of this game as time passes. We're seeing new decks come up. We're seeing new variants of old ones. I only know with time it'll continue to get better. Until then though, thank you very much for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if this is the content that you enjoy. And I will catch you guys next time. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you later. Ciao.